There are 7 things we'll talk about. The first one is called change the goal. The second one is big picture thinking. The third one, and probably the most important out of the entire deal, is nurturing human nature. And I will spend probably a little bit more time there. Another one is called design to distribute, get system savvy, create to regenerate, and focus on value creation. But these are what we call levers. And what she submits is that if you want to change a system, you have to know the levers in the system to go after to change the outcomes of the system. Quite fascinating. So it's based on this orientation that a system, if you know where to go in to change it and how to leverage the levers, if you would, and focus on them, you can begin to get what you want out of the back end. So let's start with this. My premise here is that the energy economy is ripe for this, and most of them don't even know it. And what I say in the oil and gas business right now, they can't get the oil out of the ground fast enough for the needs of the market in terms of the total energy use in the business world, or excuse me, in the world globally anyway, right? United States is suffering because the Strategic Petroleum Reserve needs to be refilled right now because it's been a kind of a hedge, if you would, for supply and demand prices on oil. It's just one example. So the first one is change the goal. What does this mean? So we want to get out of this constant growth orientation that the market and the capital markets are putting on us. But with higher, they're saying this is not about, we're not here to do GDP growth. We're here to provide value in the market, and if we can do it in the way we're doing, everybody wins, right? This is a notion of changing the mindset that we would like to see. The goal and the ambition is that everybody has access to energy. And if you know how many people do not have access to energy, you would be absolutely floored, right? This is just one of these things. We live in an industrialized society here. We don't see that. But there are places in the world that there's no energy. People have no water, no clean energy, et cetera. And so the idea is, let's go after this, but let's make sure everybody wins, including nature. So what this is, and what I used to teach at Stanford with Dr. Levitt, is what is called the triple bottom line. The triple bottom line includes the internalization of these external negative externalities, pollution, waste, etc. And by doing that, if we can do that, nature will win because we will design systems from the beginning that will lower the emissions, will lower the waste, will lower the products that are actually destroying what's going on in the world. And from that standpoint, it's a good deal. But to do that, you can't do this by yourself. You need partners in order to go after this, to make this real. Now, for an oil and gas company, they're stuck upstream. Their mindsets, we get oil into the market, and then the distribution will take the care of it because the demand for gasoline and all the derivative products in the chemical business would actually be fulfilled through that. So one of the things, as Kate Roberts is suggesting, is that if it's a win-win and we put nature in there, we'll start to build and grow, but it's a thriving grow. It's not a growth just because stockholders want more return on investment according to projections of the finance office, irregardless of what the implications are. So in this case, it's about growing to thrive so that we can actually regenerate, we can repurpose, and we can lower the impact that we have on the biosphere. And I personally believe this is important, and I can tell you that I told these to these 80 executives. I said, the moment my 4-year-old came to me and said, Daddy, why are whales showing up on Thailand beaches? And the islanders would go in and slice open the belly, and there's 50 kilograms of plastic sitting in these fish. And this is not just one time. This started to be a monthly event. And I'm like, I said, first of all, where are you getting this information? She said, oh, we have an environmental awareness class at school. She's 4. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have an answer for this, but she's asking me truly because she's emotionally disturbed by it. Why are these animals being killed by plastic? All right? And so this is an issue we can't ignore, especially for me. I'm trying to think, okay, what world is my daughter going to inherit? You know, I have had a really good life, traveling the world, doing things, but my daughter, what is she going to inherit 20 years from now? What's the ocean going to look like, et cetera? So the second thing you've got to think about is, they call it see the big picture. And seeing the big picture requires us to think much more holistically and think of energy from the beginning, because the reason you produce it, you should be sensitive to what's going on all the way downstream, from production to distribution, and ultimately to the end user, like in the energy business. And you can imagine all the different forms of energy that can be looked at from this standpoint. And if we do that, we can begin to partner to monetize the entire chain together and demonstrate that we can take care of the biosphere that goes along with this, with conscious capacity to still grow, still have margins, still be compatible with the markets to invest in, but yet I've actually made the biosphere part of the economic equation. So here's an example. This is the value chain of the oil business. It's an eye chart, but and I'm happy to send these to you, by the way, afterwards. But this is kind of energy production for oil and gas. And here's, you know, generation and distribution into the market at the utility level. What's occurring now is that we have startups. We have invention going on. There's probably 4,000 or 5,000 startups that are focused on all of the elements along this value chain to the end to increase efficiency, impact, use of energy, in new ways that we have never seen before. One example that I like, that's seeing the big picture, which is very different in terms of producing energy and in innovation. This is a Series A company. They are in proof of concept right now in Iceland. They are tapping essentially hot rock, not water. This is not geothermal water. This is hot rock. And they've invented essentially a water pipe technology, heat transfer of a sealed water system of heat from the rock going up and getting into the power generation steam turbines, creating electricity at the surface. The beauty of this for an oil and gas company is they already have the technology. They know how to deal with this. Well, they know how to do this already, and they understand drilling technology. Now imagine and the water is a one-time infusion, and it's circular. There's no emissions out of this. There's no pollution, and we're getting clean energy at the top. Zero emissions, zero contaminants, and it's a small footprint as far as what the plant is, right? So these are just examples of the shift where a company could develop this on their current capability and now go downstream, because now I'm in the electric business. And now I'm closer to the market in the value chain than I ever have before, at lower cost. What do I do with that? All right? These are the concepts of building, you know, again, what I call the business ecosystem model. The third thing, as part of this, is understanding that human nature needs to be part of our equation. And what do I mean by that? At hire, the way this is looked at is that if you take care of your people, they will take care of you. They will stay with you. But you have to have intrinsic rewards that motivate them to do this, all right? This is kind of the understanding here. In fact, when I had the one opportunity I had to interview Jong Rumin about 2 years ago when I came in, I asked him, I said, what's your strategy? I'd really want to know your strategy, because you want me to speak to 100,000 people, you know, in September. You need to educate me a little bit about what your strategy is, all right? So he goes, oh, it's expand human creative potential. No, I'm sorry, I have to restate what I'm saying just so you know. I want to know, like, what fields and industries are you going to, you know, grow and invest in order to grow the company? He went back to me. No, the strategy is to expand human creative potential.